Good morning in North America, good afternoon in the UK, and good evening possibly in other places further east. I'm Cyclone, welcome to more Let's Play Train Simulator Classic. I'm running a special premiere video today because I want to run this scenario in time with the actual date. Today actually is September 11th that I'm airing this. The date of this scenario is a Tuesday morning in September of 2001. I think we know what this is going to do. I think we see exactly where this is going, but I wanted to run this scenario specifically today and air this scenario for you today instead of tomorrow because I have my own memories of this day, and this is a day that I will never forget. Unless I have a stroke someday and my brain goes, but otherwise I will never forget this day. This is something that is stuck and blazoned in my mind. I still know what I was doing on this day. I still know how I reacted on that day. This is one of those days that I will never in my life, or at least in my life as far as I can foretell, I will never forget what happened on this day, and it will always be in my mind. And I do want to take the opportunity to at least explain to some of those who may not have been around at that time how that day felt. But what we're going to be doing today is actually running a scenario. Again, this is Train Simulator Classic. This is not politics or anything like that. This is Train Simulator Classic. We're going to run a scenario on that day and see how this interpretation of that day plays out. And I am running it at 8:45 in the morning. I'm doing this as a premiere at 8:45 in the morning as the scenario starts. So when I flip over, it will be 8:45 at the time that we start playing. And I'm still going to do all the camera edits and things like that I usually do, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming back to the train earlier than usual because I want to keep this as close to the time as possible. It's not taking us right into the time that the second tower gets hit. We're going to probably get the notification of the first because it was 1 minute after the scenario started, 8:46 a.m., that the first tower was hit. I was just getting out of bed maybe around that time, and we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, this is the first. The scenario starts 1 minute before the first tower gets hit on the World Trade Center back in 2001, and I found out about 15 minutes later, and yeah, the rest is history. Obviously what happened that day, and we'll talk more about that when we finish the scenario because I do want to talk a little bit more about that. But for right now, let's go ahead and not waste too much time, as this is a premiere. We want to get going here. We're going to start this scenario in looks like Elizabeth, I think, is where we're starting this scenario. There are a few AI trains in here, other clocker services. We'll get going on a Tuesday morning in September 2001. It's a clear run to New York Penn. Beautiful Tuesday morning, by the way. I remember it was a sunny day. Clear run to New York Penn with a few short passenger stops. Let's get going and see what this interpretation of September 11th of 2001 looks like. Good morning and happy Tuesday, drivers. Pickup time here is 8:45 a.m. After that stop in North Elizabeth, Newark Liberty, Airport, and Newark Penn en route to New York Penn. Good luck. Nothing should stop us on the way. And as shown, it is a beautiful Tuesday morning. There is our train, which will turn the headlights on very quickly. And let's get in the train and see, it is indeed 8:45. So my passenger stop is underway. I did start that. And we are going to get going in just a moment. So we're going to be leaving at a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. You can see the American flag up ahead, and let's just zoom in a little bit on the view to take a look out the window. Obviously, being a standard scenario, we don't have any scoring in the corner above the progress bar, so we are going to go. And as I said in the introduction, I'm going to stay on time with you the entire way. I'm not going to be cutting out any time in this scenario. I'll just do the odd camera edit, but it's going to be exactly in time. And we're going to go from there. So let's bring the train up to 100 miles, or 100% throttle rather, not 100 miles, that's too fast. 55 miles per hour again is our limit. We are coming into a 90 mile per hour as we leave for North Elizabeth. We're not going to worry about the 90 mile per hour speed limit, though we are going to be allowed to go that in a moment. Bringing up the task list, we do have a timetable. We have to arrive by 8:48 at North Elizabeth. That should not be an issue. Looks like a fairly relaxed stop here, so we're going to go ahead and treat it as a fully relaxed stop. There's a little uphill coming into Newark up ahead. So I'm not fully on in the stopping power yet. I think I'm supposed to come in a little faster and slow to a complete stop. And by letting the air out, I actually got to the edge of the platform, which is not what I was going for. But I should still stop right, well, maybe slightly off the platform. I'll deal with that. But we have arrived at North Elizabeth, track number 1, for our first stop of this journey. I'm back with you in the cab. We are getting ready to leave. Let's look at the rest of our itinerary. So passenger boarding is complete. Oh, I like that view out the window. Nice. Very nice view of the highway down there. I actually like that. Very nice. So we're going to be going to Newark Liberty 851, then 856 for Newark Penn, and Cicacious Track 2. So it looks like we're not going to get to New York Penn. We're going to be stopping at 903. Which is actually the fateful moment that I will refer to later. So let's get going. So let's just have an 18-minute scenario. We have a 90-mile-per-hour speed limit, so we are able to tear away at fast speed right now. And we'll take advantage of that opportunity to do so. There is the stop up ahead. We are roughly 2 minutes away. We have a 70 coming up. Of course, if we're going 70 by that sign, we got a serious problem. I'm going to stop at 75. There's no reason to really go any faster. Going at a good pace right now for my stop, so I'm starting to bring the brakes on a little bit. Now entering the 70-mile-per-hour section. I did not go far enough in for my liking, so I'm going to keep the speed on for a moment to keep going in. I was planning for the number at the front of the station, not the full distance of the station for that stop. On a timetable, I like to go as far in as possible. We should still be on time, so I don't predict any issue with this stop coming up right here. So let's make that stop. And we have arrived at Newark Liberty Airport, track 1. Back in the cab. When we were in the scenario list, you might have noticed that there are some scenarios for the Pennsy locomotive in there. You may have noticed that they were not in the career tab when we looked in the career tab the other day. So those are scenarios I'm going to have to do in the future. They are official scenarios that come with the Pennsy locomotive, so I will have to do those at some point in the future as well. I did not consider that in my plans initially, and I was only reminded about that when I came to do this scenario today. But this scenario today is the same train as comes with the actual scenario, as comes with the actual route itself. So it made sense to go ahead and plan the route introduction right before running this scenario. That's why we're going right into this scenario today from the route introduction the other day. We have 2 more official scenarios with the route. We have the Acela Express scenarios as well that are also curious scenarios. You may have noticed, actually I don't know if I showed, but I have a number of workshop scenarios as well, also in the route. So heading now to Newark Penn, we have not been given any notification of what's going on around us in New York. I expected to have a notification of the tower being impacted by the train by this point. So it looks like maybe we do not have those messages updating us on things in the scenario, which kind of loses the immersion of the actual events, in my opinion, of the day. I would kind of hope for those things to be discussed. At about this point, I think I was actually arriving in my study. I lived with my parents at the time. I was arriving in my study, and I had turned my computer on and was starting to go about looking at stuff online. I had turned on the radio, and at that point, it was just my usual routine. I didn't have anything to do in the morning that day because that day of the week, Tuesday, was my morning off at that time, and I was just going about my business, doing what I did on a regular morning, which was listen to the radio. I had the radio on by this point, listening to music, listening for the morning news, so I could figure out what was going on around town, figure out if I needed, for example, plan for a construction delay, anything like that appeared on the radio. And it was just a matter of planning my day at this point. Boy, did that plan, the plan didn't change because I'm not in New York, but oh boy, did my attitude toward the day change in a hurry. So yeah, by this point, the first tower of the World Trade Center had been on fire for about 8.5 minutes at this point, and all the emergency crews were getting on site. They were starting to climb the tower to try to put out the fire. It was so high in the building that there was no way they were going to reach it for hours. I'm a little early on that break. It shows to be on the platform, but our actual platform is inside the enclosed area here, so I'm going to do that. You can see that we have that's actually a label. I don't want that. We have time for our arrival. I should be able to bring up the train now. Nope, that's still a label. Okay, we'll get the label in a moment for the train. Nope, we don't have a label for that train. Good to know. That must not be a service. I'm in the perfect location for this stop, so I will stop right here. Arrival at Newark Penn, track number 1. So we have one more stop listed up ahead here, and that is at 9:03 at Cicacious, which is only 5 miles away. It is a decent drive, so that timetable does make sense. There is a moving service over there. Let's look out the window and see who that is. Wrong window. Was it on that side? Yes, it was. That is AEM 7940. I remember there being a 934 in there, and I don't remember what the last one was. But again, there are 3 moving services, or at least active services, in this scenario. NEC dispatch to AEM 7900. This is a serious emergency. By the time he got to Newark Liberty, the twin towers of the WTC were struck by 2 American liners aircraft. That's actually incorrect. We'll talk about that after. The towers are coming down. The safest stopping point is Cicacious over at Croxton Yard. Apparently, you will have delays this morning. Yeah, that message is wrong. One plane had hit the tower by this point, and there were no fears at that point of the towers coming down by this time of the morning. In fact, that really started showing up on, I've seen Sky News reports, live reports on Sky News in the UK, because I happened to locate that somewhere. And there was a guy on there, a gentleman on there, who was an expert and suggested about 9:20, 9:25 New York time that the towers could be in grave danger and that anyone there should consider getting out of the way. And it was only around that time, about 20 minutes after the end of this scenario, as it were, that there was some concern about the towers potentially falling. So that message is a little bit out of accuracy. It's not accurate at all. And but I'm happy to see that an attempt was made to put the message in there. I'm happy to see the attempt was made to talk about it, rather than just leave it as a emotionless run. I know there's one train station, I don't remember if it's a subway or what it is, but there's actually one train station that was right underneath the World Trade Center. They had to stop all services before the World Trade Center, and needless to say, that was an interruption that people weren't expecting that morning. It also, because the towers collapsed and everything crushed the station underneath, there's actually a station underneath the World Trade Center, like the W.H. Smith, whatever it's called, I don't remember what the name of the store is that the train stations have in New York, but it was abandoned and became a dust-filled area, and they got into it years later to find some of the old merchandise. It was like a time capsule, some of the stuff that was sold there that probably would not sell today, but nonetheless stands as a memory of what was there. And they got out what they could. I'm sure some of what they got out they have tried to sell since or have sold since. But it was interesting to see that they had that store area underneath that was completely abandoned. Everything was darkened down there. It was like a ghost zone, a ghost town down there. Ghost station, if you will. So 90 is our speed limit. We are coming up to a 60. I only got up to a 75 and I decided not to push it because we are already coming to a good schedule for this. And this is the time, obviously being 9 o'clock in the morning, that the local news would come on. And at the moment that the news started, the first story I heard, of course, everyone was running it by that point, was that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. A single airplane had hit the World Trade Center. That was the story on the news at that time. And that was still true at the time. 5 minutes later, around shortly after this scenario ends, 5 minutes later, my father gave me a phone call from work. He has since passed in 2021, so 20 years later, but he has since passed. But he did give me a phone call from work at that time, and he actually said, "Did you hear that 2 planes hit the World Trade Center?" My reaction, having just heard the first news story, was, wait a second, did you say 2 planes? And as soon as I heard that, I was downstairs. I had a news channel on immediately at that point. And I think I watched it for the next 40 minutes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I went upstairs, I got back to my computer, and I started talking to some friends on a discussion forum I had joined at that point, a few months earlier. And we were talking about the whole incident. Everyone was in disbelief. We couldn't understand what was happening. So we were talking about this with each other, and as I was up there, I heard the Pentagon was getting hit, and that was from a post. And then someone said the tower collapsed. I was right back downstairs, and I actually did see the second one collapse live on the TV. It was a really, really tragic thing to watch. It's still online. You can watch live video online, coincidentally enough. Not that you would want to, but you can do that. And for me, it just serves as a reminder of how screwed up the world was back then and how screwed up it still is today, because people still do that kind of thing today. And it's not that extreme. You don't see that. But there was an attempt to hijack a whole bunch of airplanes and cause as much terror as possible at one point. That plan got foiled, thankfully. And I saw a Mayday episode talking about that based on another explosion that happened. So they caught someone for that. Ramsey Youssef, I think it was, something like that. He's, I think he's at Guantanamo or something like that. He might be in New York, though. He might be in a New York prison. But in any case, yeah, it was a sad day, and I think I've said all I really need to say about that. As we arrive at Staycations, we're making our stop. It's not a passenger stop, but let's look at our train as we finish. So I sense we're going to get a little bit of storyline here as we finish the scenario here. We're going to get more storyline information. The storyline so far has been, like I said, a little inaccurate. But again, I appreciate the attempt. I think we'll be here a while. You say. You don't say. Terrorists crashed 2 planes into the Twin Towers, which is true by 9:03. And New York Penn has been closed due to northbound and southbound, with a capital O, traffic for now. Scenario complete. So, yeah. Everything started shutting down at that point, and bridges were closed, everything else. It was a horrible day, and like people were walking across bridges to get out. The video does not do justice to how horrible it was. I've never been to New York. That would have been a day that would have been something to see for someone who would have been visiting New York. I'm sure it was something to see for anyone living in New York. And a tragic, tragic day. So, with that said, I just want to thank you for joining me for this special September 11th scenario. I'll let you back to your regular day now. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, or if it's afternoon or evening for you, whatever it is for your part of the world. I will see you next time, probably on Friday at this point, for some more Train Simulator Classic. I'll see you then. Don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'll see you then. I'm Cyclone. Bye-bye.